This is gonna be all scrambled around. Welcome to episode 1 of Intentional Knits. I'm Allison, and this is my first attempt, so let's see if I can do this without saying a million times. I've been wanting to start a podcast for a while, and right now I have severe castanitis, so I figure let's put all that energy into not starting a million projects all at the same time. So I guess I'll talk about the name a little bit. Well, it also goes with my Instagram handle, which is intentional or intentional. Works on multiple levels. I try to make things and purchase things with intention. Also have a lot of anxiety, hence the intention, and tension for knitting, obviously, because gauge, tension, what have you. Anyway, I don't want to ramble on too much, so I'll just kind of get right into knitting stuff, because that's what we're all here for. So what I'm wearing is a design of my own. It's called the Good Willow pullover. The pattern has not been released yet, but I'm planning on doing that next week. Prop myself up, show you a little better. This is my second sample, so I actually cropped this one. The original is a little bit longer, but I do like how it turned out. All over cable texture, drop shoulder. Got nice little colorwork flowers with some mohair for added extra fuzz, because who doesn't love that? So I've been working on a series of knits inspired by the world of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because I am obsessed. So this one is inspired by Willow Rosenberg, who is like the nerdy sidekick tech hacker person at first, but then she turns witchy, but she always wears these like amazing sweaters. I'll insert a couple here, more iconic ones. I do still want to recreate this big fuzzy pink one at some point, but I didn't want to like design something that wasn't my own, from my own brain, you know? Really love how it turned out. You ever make something and you're just like, wow, this turned out perfectly? Everything about it just really came together, and I love all of my testers' versions. They're all so beautiful, and I can't wait to share it all with the world. Yeah, that's the Good Willow pullover. I guess this is my first episode. I don't really have like FOs that anybody will have remembered or cared about and all that, but I guess I'll share my most recent one, which is just a simple little hat. It's 1x1 rib gathered at the top. I'm not quite sure what the name of the pattern was off the top of my head, but I'll insert it down here for you all to see. Nice and easy, worsted weight. This yarn actually has been in my stash for a while, and not only that, but I had actually started knitting a hat with it like three years ago. I don't know, I think it was in 2020 or 2019, one of those. But I got like, I was doing like a self-drafted pattern, and I don't knit a lot of hats, so like not knowing where to start the decreases and stuff, you'd think it'd be simple, but see, like for a sweater, I know exactly like where I should be increasing and decreasing and like to get what shape, but for hats, somehow it just escapes me. I had like a brain fart and like couldn't get past it, so it was sitting on the needles until a couple weeks ago. Every year, a couple times, like once or twice a year, I try to do like a big whip clean out. So like I go through all my whips, see if what I'm realistically gonna finish, and then frog the ones that I know I won't. This was one of them. I was like, I don't even remember what size needles I was using at the time because I had ripped them out for another project. So at that point I was like, let me just start over, because it's a hat. It'll take like 5 minutes to make. It took not 5 minutes, it took more like a couple days, but it's cute. I like it. It's really comfy. I'm pretty sure the yarn is it was either Blue Sky Fibers and whatever that worsted base is, like wool stock I think, or the fiber company in whatever that worsted base is, but I'm pretty sure it was Blue Sky Fibers. It's really soft. I love it. Squishes my head in just the most lovely way. And yeah, I'm gonna take it off because I have freshly washed bangs, and if you have bangs, you know how it is. This will talk whips because I've got a bunch. As I mentioned before, I have cast-on-itis. I don't know, it started like a few months ago, and I can't stop. It's just so many sweaters all the time. And I'm like, I only have so much room for sweaters, but here we are. Let's start with socks. Work our way up to the big one. So I saw on Instagram a couple weeks ago that Lina was doing their like not so perfect sale, and I can't afford their magazines all the time because they're expensive for a good reason. There's like lots of stuff in there, lots of beautiful patterns, but I definitely took advantage of this opportunity, and I've been wanting this book for a long time. And I don't know what came over me because I am not a sock knitter. I knit maybe like 2 pairs of socks a year, and only because I like to have something to work on while I'm playing D&D. So I have a lot of vanilla socks, or I start a pair of socks because I can't decide what else I should be making. But for some reason, I've been obsessed with this book, and I'm so happy to have it in my possession now. But I got this crazy idea into my head that I want to knit through the entire book in order. I don't know what came over me, but here we are. That's what we're doing. Also, I feel like I'm talking really fast. I think because I don't have like a ton of time. I am procrastinating is why I'm doing this, is because I'm procrastinating. I should be. The pattern's written out for this sweater, but I need to take it out of like a Google Doc and put it into like something that's pretty and nice to look at. I should be doing that, but here I am doing this instead. That being said, I'm trying to do this fast-ish because in order to be productive, I usually need to go somewhere else that's not my house. Like, I like to go to this coffee shop and just beat boop there on my computer for like 5 hours, and that's how I get stuff done. But I'm also on a bike. I don't have a car right now. That's another story. I'll save it for the end if I feel like it. But anyway, I'm on a bike, and it's not that long of a bike ride. It's like 15 minutes, but then it's just like, it's a whole thing. Anyways, back to socks. I got it into my head that I wanted to knit through the entire book of socks in order. I had the same idea about Marlisle, which if you don't have that book, I really, really love it. It's got a lot of amazing patterns in here. And I knit the first few, but then I got stuck. I think the first big one was the cardigan. And I knit the mitts, I knit the hat, I knit the cowl. First big one is the cardigan. which I still love. Chevrons aren't usually my thing, but I love the way this looks. Anyway, I couldn't decide on colors, so that got set to the back burner. But I think with socks will be easy because I always have some sort of sock on the needles, even if I don't work on it for months at a time. It's there. It's nice to have. So the first one is intersections, which are these beautiful cabled, not quite shorty, but they're like ankle height, which is like my ideal. Like, I like it to go just don't show your feet on YouTube, Allison. Just above the ankle is my ideal. I like, because I wear I wear Docs most of the time, so I like it to come up so that the boot doesn't rub on my leg, but I don't like it to come up too far. Anyway, I'm knitting the intersection socks, and here's what I have so far. I also really want to, like, it's gonna be kind of like a sock study, I guess. Like, I want to use the suggested yarn and follow the instructions exactly. I think the only thing that I would change would be like the length of the leg. The first one, it's knit with Patton's Croy. Their sock base, which I have attempted to use before, but I didn't really realize, like, it is really thick. It's not fingering weight. It's definitely like more like a sport weight, and I just wasn't thinking when I attempted a while ago with some different ones, and then realized like I was not gonna have enough yarn to knit 2 socks. So you definitely need like 2 balls to knit 2 socks. I am using, what's the colorway? Gentry Gray for mine, which I really like. The sample uses, I think it's called Flax, like a more medium gray, which I did have 1 ball of, but I didn't want to risk buying 1 more ball and then look completely different. I don't think that really would have been an issue because it's commercial sock yarn. Like, how different would they be really? But you'd be surprised. Anyway, so I'm using Gentry Gray. It's a toe-up sock. And then you start working these little cables. And they're just really pretty. It is a little bit, I haven't attempted working on these during the day. It is a little tricky to work on at night because it's so dark. Also, I'm using 9-inch circulars, Chiaogus. It's my favorite way of knitting socks because I just don't like dealing with magic loop. It's so fiddly. There's too many things everywhere. I like this. Neat and tidy. Took some getting used to, but definitely worth it. And it's nice to have like different size things to work on for my hands, if that makes sense. I will say though that working the cables on these is not super easy. It's not impossible, but I'm also doing the cables without using a cable needle, so I think that just makes it a little trickier because the yarn is so dark and so little, like the stitches are so little that like when I hold the stitches off of the needle, like I end up dropping them sometimes. But it's really not that big of a deal. Also, these socks, like, I haven't worked on this very much or for very long. It's really going fast because it's sport weight, so just, it's great. I love that. Because another goal of mine for this year is to knit 1 pair of socks every month. Again, I have no idea what has come over me because I am not a sock knitter. we'll see if I stick to. So these would be my February socks. And I'm about to go on like a mini ski trip with some friends, and we're driving up to Pennsylvania. Oh, I live in Richmond, Virginia. For reference, it's like a 5-hour drive. Anyway, going on a little ski trip, taking a little road trip up to Pennsylvania. So I think I'm gonna have a lot of work put into this this weekend, which I'm excited about. Whip number 2. Let's do this one. So this is another design I just started a couple weeks ago. Just kind of another drop shoulder. It's my favorite shape to wear, I think. They're just so like, they're like slouchy, but they like fit nice. I like the way they look on me. Anyway, drop shoulder, waffle texture with a little garter stripe throughout. This kind of like flew off the needles until I reached the hem, and then I couldn't decide what to do. But yeah, I just ended up deciding to do like a little mini split hem, and then it's like a 1x1 rib, but then I kept the waffle texture on the end. You kind of, it's like a small detail, but I'm into it. Folded collar, which I'm obsessed with right now. So yeah. Oh, the yarn is Forest Fiber Arts in the Winter Birch colorway, and I actually attempted to knit a different pattern with this sometime last summer, but I didn't swatch because I almost never do unless it's a test knit. But it turned out, usually it works out okay because I like oversized. I also like fitted sweaters, but in this case it was like way too big. It was like, and the pattern does recommend 20 inches of positive ease, which just feels too much. That's just too much. And I think I did size down a bit. Anyway, it turned out way too big. It was like, so it was here, it was like the body was like all the way out here. There was like my whole hand's length worth of positive ease just on the one side. So I threw it in a corner for a while, and it's been sitting in said corner ever since, until at the end of last year I got all my whips out and was like, all right, let's get our shit together. So then I had it at the front of the corner where I keep my whips, where all my whips go to dye, and so it was just in the forefront of my mind. Plus I really wanted to use this yarn, and I knew I still wanted a sweater with this texture, but I just like couldn't find a pattern with this weight, with the same shape that I wanted, that I like really felt good about. So that's that. Hopefully I'll have it ready before it gets warm, because designing for me happens very slowly. I get inspiration, and then like, so the way my process is I knit the thing, write down all the things as I'm knitting it, and then go into grading and like all the math parts. But sometimes it just takes me a while, and I only really have like one going at a time. I don't understand how designers can have like a new pattern every week. It's just, it blows my mind. How do they do that? My process is just slow, and that's fine. That's okay. We don't have to compare ourselves to others, because there's no point. But yeah, that's that. Don't know what the name will be yet. Don't know when it'll be finished. But hopefully I can at least have it ready. I only have the sleeves left, and I already started them last week, but then the yarn, so I had like, I think I bought like the last 5 skeins at the yarn shop that I got it from, which was West 7th Wool, which is in my hometown, Fort Worth, Texas. Every time I go visit my parents, I go to West 7th Wool and I walk out with a sweaters quantity. Oops. Anyway, but I think I bought like the last 5 skeins of this, so like they weren't all quite matching. Like a lot of, like one of them was way more heavily speckled, one of them was like way lighter speckled, which is nothing to say about the designer. That's just different dye lots. That's just how hand dyeing yarn works. But I had to alternate like crazy. That being said, I started the sleeves, and like the white base looked way wider on the sleeve than it did on the body. Like you can see, like there's some like white, it's white but it's also not white. It's like, let me not flip you off. It's like a creamy white and like some yellowy hints to it. It's really pretty. It's a gorgeous color. I'm obsessed with it. I feel like I'll be like a little birch tree in the woods, and that's all I could ever hope for. But let's move on. I'll update you as more things happen with that. This isn't really a whip, but it kind of is because I've been working on it. But as I mentioned before, I went through all my past whips that have been sitting in the corner where they go to dye, and had this one as well. And I actually started, this was supposed to be another design, and I had started this like over a year ago now, maybe like a year and a half, I'm not sure. But as I was working on it, again, I like got to the bottom and like I couldn't decide what I wanted the hem to be, and then somebody released a pattern that was like super similar to this. So then I was like, I don't think I can keep working on this in the same way. So I'm ripping it out. This I've been working on as, and I say that I've only done it once so far, but I think it's what I will keep doing as I've been watching the Last of Us episodes as they've been released, because I like can't watch TV without doing something with my hands, but I like to watch The Last of Us. Like, I need to set the mood. It's got to be a little bit dimly lit on my like TV in the living room, you know. And also everything that I'm working on right now requires like attention, because I've got cabled socks, I've got design, and I've got color work, which I am going to show you in a moment. So I was like, you know what? This will be the perfect thing, will be to just rip this out while I'm watching TV, or while I'm watching that TV, because that requires attention. And it's so good. If you haven't watched it, you really should. If you aren't super into zombies, I would say, but you like kind of like spooky, I think it's a good one because they do it really differently than like every other zombie thing that you've ever seen. And also, there are 4 episodes now, and we've only had one encounter with a zombie of sorts. It's more about like the interpersonal connections and like the politics of like the post-apocalyptic world that we're in. It's really good. Big fan. I attempted to play the game because my friend was like, you would love it, the story is amazing, and I was like, sick, I'm into it. And it was way too scary for me to play, because me and zombies, I'm like, it's like a train wreck. I can't look away, but I will have nightmares. And that game was really intense, and I did not get very far. I was still in like tutorial mode, like where it's like giving you a bunch of tasks to help you learn what to do. And I got stuck in this one part, and I couldn't figure out a way out, and my heart was beating so fast, and my hands were shaking, and I had to like control her away. I had to turn it off. I couldn't play it anymore. I was like, you know what? I'll wait for this show, and I'll watch it then, and it'll be great. And it is. Anyway, rip to this design, but that's okay, because like it was just gonna be okay anyway. I think what I'll do instead is the grocery girls are having a raglan along, and I originally thinking, I was like, maybe this would be a good cozy classic raglan, which I have made before and I love it, but I found this other raglan that I'm like, can't get out of my head. It's by Sari Nordland. I'll put a photo here, but it looks really interesting. It is bottom up, which doesn't intimidate me as much, like as much as it used to, because I think before I was like cropped sweaters only, but now I like a bit of both. So if like it turns out too long, it'll just be a long cozy sweater, and I like that. So I think I'm gonna do that one. I can't remember the name right now, again, down here. But I think I'll do that for the raglan along. It'll be fun. I also don't usually join knitting alongs because I don't know why. I enjoy them when I have. I think because I just like, also the past couple years my knitting mojo has been like non-existent. Like the inspiration was there, but the motivation was like nowhere to be found. I'm sure all of you can relate to that. The important thing to do when things like that happen is just to let it happen. I learned how to do pottery. I got really into plants. And then one day my mojo came back. And I can talk more about that probably in a different episode. But basically what I did was I knit something ridiculous, and then it just like was a kickstart I needed. So yeah, I think this will be a nice little raglan, little unravel project. Also, this is not living in any sort of bag. This is living in a basket, which it doesn't really fit in. There's a lot of things in that basket. I have been a very like unhinged knitter lately, and most of my projects actually don't live in bags anymore. They just live on top of things in a basket. So for my last whip, I just started this a couple days ago and I'm obsessed with it. I didn't know I would love it so much, but here I am. I love it so much. And this has also been a long time coming, which is very exciting that it's finally happening. Woohoo! Little colorwork yoke situation. Ooh, it's not laying completely flat. So this is the Tundra pullover by the Petite Knitter. I'm obsessed with all of her patterns. She has a lot of amazing colorwork designs, and I haven't knit a colorwork yoke in like a really long time. Like, this is colorwork, but it's not the same. It's not the same as this. I like kind of steered clear of yokes like this for a while because I don't think they fit me super well. I don't like I've had a lot of issues where, and this is probably like more of a tension problem, but like it like has like waves. You can kind of see here. Oh, here when I held it up, it did it. Like this happens, you know? And also like I tend to prefer an oversized sweater. I do like some fitted sweaters. Like I'm getting more into them now. But for something like something like this, I want it to be a little bit looser fitting, and I just find that with the colorwork yoke, it doesn't do the oversized thing very well. It kind of like, it just, when it's oversized, it doesn't sit flat, it like bubbles. But I knit the size with only like 3 inches of positive ease, so I think I'll be okay there. This is also, again, the first like big color work project I've knit in a while, so my tension was all over the place. I'm really hoping it'll block out. I'll turn it inside out so you can actually see the floats. Hey, you want to see my floats? I don't know what's going on with me today. Okay, so up here, this is where I start. Oh, I also altered it to be a top down as opposed to a bottom up. And I just said that bottom up doesn't scare me anymore, but I really wanted this to be top down for some reason. I think because I wanted to add short rows, and for some reason, bottom up short rows, like my mind wouldn't wrap around them. Anyway, I changed it to be top down. I also wanted to take this on the ski trip, so I wanted to get to the like stockinette part ASAP. But anyway, you can see up here how my tension is like kind of weird, and then down here it's like kind of perfect, not gonna lie. It's really nice because I had got the practice in. I also think that you're increasing more like earlier on, so I think that also has something to do with it. I do think that it will block out. I might stretch out the neck a bit so that everything lays flat. I also decided to do another folded collar instead of not that. So that's my tundra sweater. My sister actually got me this yarn like a few years ago, I think in 2019. I don't know. You know how the last few years have been. It's all a blur. Anyway, I've had it for a few years in my stash. She got me sweaters quantity, and it's been sitting in my stash forever, and I was craving some color work, so I was like, let's finally use it. So sorry for the... I'm gonna close my curtain a little, because it's disco hour. I have a disco ball in my window with a plant in it. Hence the spots. Ugh, we're just gonna enjoy them today. This always happens when I get yarn as gifts. Like, it's always something that I wouldn't have originally like gravitated towards, but I always end up like, not end up, like I love all the colors. But sometimes it's nice to have someone choose something for you to get you out of like your normal like color zone that you live in. And I really love it. The pattern only calls for 2 contrast colors, but I really wanted to add that blue in because it's really pretty. So I did. I just added it to like the inside of this diamond and the inside of these 2 diamonds. So it's really not that much, but I think it just adds like a little more depth than I would have gotten with just the black and white. I kind of already have it in my head because I have a lot of the blue left over. And I also randomly purchased like this purple color a few years ago for no reason. I saw it and I wanted it. So I kind of want to make another version with those 2 colors as the contrast color and then use some sort of like rusty red as the main color. I think that would be really pretty. Anyway, really happy with how this is turning out. Mostly, I'm really hoping this will block out. I think it will. I added some short rows. I split for the sleeves last night, and then I added some short rows. I kind of copied the instructions for the short rows that were in the Kutar pullover, which is another recent-ish FO. I kind of took those instructions and finagled them so that it worked for this, because I really liked the way that ended up fitting. So basically you just work until like you get to just under the cast on stitches for under the sleeve, and then you work back across to the other sleeve, and then you just work until you finish working through all the stitches under the sleeve, so that you don't get anything on the front that like looks like a weird jog or whatever from the short row. And I think it will turn out really nice. Also not living in a project bag. It's just been on top of the other things that are on top of the things in the basket. All right, we'll get into like some life stuff. Let's see, I don't have a car. I mentioned that earlier. I've been biking it, which is great, except that it's really cold. So I think what I will do, what I really need to do is I need to knit a balaclava and some mittens. I have some mittens, but they're kind of thin and they're really old, so, and I didn't make them, so less fun. But on the plus side, I feel like I have actually been like wearing my knits more because I need to bundle up for the bike ride, because I work at a brewery and like beer gets on every piece of clothing and like chemicals are everywhere, so I don't usually like to wear my sweaters at work, especially because also, so like so you're pouring the beer, right? Pew! And then like you set the glass down, and then like inevitably you have to reach under the drippy taps. So like I remember last winter I just, my every long sleeve shirt I wore, just like beer was all over the sleeves, so I avoid wearing my sweaters. But I've actually been wearing them a lot more this year, and I think it's fine. I'm pretty careful, and also I'm pretty good at getting stains out of my knits. I don't wear the ones that are like super duper special. I hate that. They're all special, but I don't wear the one, like I'm not gonna wear my cashmere lace weight cabled sweater at work, you know? So yeah, I need to bundle up. So I think my future knitting plans are to knit a balaclava and some mittens. But maybe I won't. I want to. I want to make those things, but I only really ever really want to make sweaters because I love sweaters. Another thing I've been trying to do is organize my queue in Ravelry so that like all of my sweaters quantities have a project in mind, or like a couple projects that I have in mind for those sweaters quantities. So those are what I add to my queue. I think I should leave it there. It's been a while. I'm gonna have some editing to do. I also really need to go and edit this pattern so that it can be released. Hopefully next week. I'm aiming for February 14th. But yeah, if you happen to see this, thank you. Welcome. Thank you. Till next time. I'm hoping to do this somewhat regularly, probably more like a bi-weekly thing, because every week sounds like a lot. But who knows? We'll see. Like and subscribe. You know what to do. All the YouTube things. One day, hopefully I'll figure out a good sign off for this, but till then, this is what we're working with. Okay. I'm just gonna stop now. All right, bye.